think I'm spooky.
What have you done to his eyes?
Good evening and welcome to Soft and Spooky. Today marks a holiday on this channel because it's Friday the 13th, baby. We gotta celebrate, and so we are gonna be doing a watch party for part 2 of Friday the 13th. If you haven't seen my first Friday the 13th watch party, I'm gonna go ahead and link it up above here as well as at the end of the video. As a disclaimer, if you've never seen one of my watch parties before, essentially I am going through the entirety. Okay. If you've never seen any of my watch parties before, essentially I'm going through the entirety of a horror movie or show, and I'm adding in my little commentary, trivia, and really stupid edits. Also, really quickly, I just have to address, if you haven't seen my Instagram post back in August, we freaking did it! We did it! We hit 500 subscribers, and we actually did it before the end of the year, so I am in awe, and I can't articulate like how thankful I am that you all kind of came together and helped out my channel and supported it. And yeah, I just hope you stick around, and I just really appreciate it. It means a lot to kind of like hit milestones like this, and you guys are the best. And without further ado, let's sink our teeth in. The opening scene of this film, we open up to a kid just absolutely annihilating their Adidas. It's a crime. I will say there are some pretty good like foot acting, ooh, I got a little Midwest there. A little bit of foot acting. As he splashes along the street, we do actually get some pretty good foot acting because the kid stomps his feet as his mom tells him to come inside. Oh! Good Lord, that was loud. Okay, yeah, we can't avoid that. We've gotten our very first glimpse at the antagonist of the film. Oh, my bones. The next part I will absolutely be skipping through because it is just a recap of the first movie. We have our final girl, Alice, it's like under the frame of her having a nightmare, reliving what happened in the last movie, but like, did they think that we were not gonna remember the first movie? If you haven't seen my first watch party, shame on you. Essentially, the too long didn't watch is that there's a camp called Camp Crystal Lake where there was a horrible drowning of a little boy named Jason, and his mother was the cook at the camp, and she decides to take vengeance on all these counselors that were too busy making whoopee to actually watch her kid. So she comes back, kills everybody. Her name's Pamela Voorhees. She's sick. She gets decapitated. And we have our final girl, Alice. But yeah, I just saved you 5 minutes of like the opening scene because that's the one thing about these movies, the pacing. I think they didn't quite know what they were doing. They just really have a problem letting a shot sit for a long time or going over a full recap of the previous movie. And I don't know, it feels like they're padding out the runtime like those cutaway segments on Family Guy where they would just go to Conway Twitty.
Yikes, looks like I need a distraction. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Conway Twitty.
I see the sparkling.
She wakes up from her nightmare and takes quite possibly the quickest shower I have ever seen. She only got like 10% of her hair wet. I'm not sure what she was doing in there, but she gets this phone call and we see some of her apartment. Gotta say, very, very whimsy goth like aesthetic. I actually really like it. I got so nervous seeing her put that kettle on the stove because I got flashbacks to the first movie where they straight up just went through Alice preparing coffee, like the entire process of her preparing it. And, whew, talk about trauma. As she goes to the refrigerator to get some food out for her cat, we get the ultimate jump scare, and we see the decapitated head of Pamela Voorhees sitting in her fridge. But we take a sharp turn and we immediately kill off the final girl from the first movie as she gets an ice pick to the temple. I saw like a behind the scenes or fun fact that I guess the ice pick that they used, it's supposed to be like a retractable one, and it malfunctioned the first time they did it, and she actually kind of got poked in the temple. So that's not ideal. We go into the credits, and I don't know, it makes me laugh where we get the logo of Friday the 13th, and in the first movie, it was like glass that shattered, I think. But in this one, we're amping it up. It's the sequel, baby. So they have it explode, and it's so ridiculous. After the title sequence, we see a couple as they pull into town outside of Camp Crystal Lake. And it's so funny because as soon as they park their truck, it just immediately starts getting towed. And it reminds me of any time I've been in DC. We also get our only other surviving member of the first movie, Crazy Ralph. And he's back on his BS. We do find out that the truck getting towed was actually just a prank, bro, by our little giggle bunny over here, Ted.
Welcome to God's country.
Why does he kind of look like Ariana Grande's guy? We do realize that these kiddos are not alone because we get that classic POV shot that is synonymous with these movies, and we get a glimpse of the meaty paw of our antagonist. We do meet some of the other campers. Cinema. Thankfully, the movie actually does me a huge favor, and we kind of get a rundown of some of the main characters' names. The pervy slingshot guy is named Scott. He hit Terry's butt, and she has a cute little dog, I think it's a Shih Tzu, named Muffin. She's friends with Vicky, who we will later come to find out is extremely down bad for Mark. The two that we met with their truck getting towed is Sandra and her Bon Jovi looking boyfriend named Jeff. And I think I already said it before, but the Giggletron 3000 is named Ted. Do you think we have enough characters in this film? You do? Well, that's too damn bad because we have more. We also get Ginny that's driving up in this busted Beetle, and her boyfriend is this kind of like camp leader or organizer named Paul. We do also get some groundwork on what to expect later in the film with some not so subtle exposition.
Having trouble? You gotta treat them gentle. Just like kids. Use a little of that child psychology you're majoring in.
At least in this film, I do feel like our main girl that we focus on, she at least has a little bit more flavor. I felt like I didn't really get much personality from Alice, but with Jenny, I definitely do.
It's more fun using that child psychology on you. You're such a sucker for it.
Later on that night, Ginny goes to get ready for bed early, but Paul has some other plans. Meanwhile, the little freak Ralph is just watching them. Go home to your wife, dude. Oh, right, he can't because he's dead. That is cold. I need to reheat that. The next day, we are on a hike, and I gotta say something controversial. I think we should bring back short shorts for everyone. I think they look good on everybody.
Look at all them hot pants.
Hey, who likes short shorts?
I'm also mostly just stalling because I saw that sweet little angel Muffin go up to the feet of what I assume is our antagonist, and my anxiety has skyrocketed. The next day, everybody is hanging out at the lake, but Sandra is begging her boyfriend Jeff to take her to Camp Crystal Lake. Sadly, on their way to Camp Crystal Lake, they see a badly mangled corpse of a dog, and I'll spare you all from seeing it, but just know, I hate it. Anyway, the two of them actually don't even make it to Camp Crystal Lake because they get stopped by a cop. And later, as he is driving back, I think to the town, he sees another person in the woods that he assumes is another trespasser. As he's running, he does this little stop to like fix what I am 85% sure is a toupee, and it just is so funny to me. He runs for a while, and like a long while. And this is one of the main reasons why I could just never be a cop, because probably after like my third time stopping to catch my breath, I'd be like, next time. we will get that baby strangler. He stumbles across this little love shack in the middle of the woods, and he comes to discover what we don't get to see yet, but there's something very disturbing in one of the rooms. Unfortunately, this discovery earns him a hammer claw to the back of the cranium, and he's dead. A large group of the counselors, okay. Ha! This fucking thing, I swear. I'm gonna rip this thing apart. As a last night before any of the campers arrive, a large group of the counselors decide to go into town and check out the bars while some of them stay back at the camp. I can't tell exactly what's going on here with the girl in the vest, but it kind of looks painful. Like, did she fall? Back at the camp, the girls are putting on the riz heavy.
Come with me.
Later, Scooter. What do you want to play for?
Position. I only want your fingers.
Down, girl, down. Also, Terry decides to go skinny dipping, and when she gets out, Scott decides to keep her clothes from her.
Hands on you. Scott! It's no longer funny, Scott.
I hate that guy. But he gets his comeuppance, because he actually gets caught in like a little booby trap, and he's hanging upside down from a tree. For some reason, his scream here reminds me of that scream that the one lady does in that video where the guy is like, "Why are you running?" I have to admit, I think the tension here while Scott is just hanging upside down, oh my gosh, pun intended, tension, like tension from the rope. But the tension here while he's just like swaying, and you know that like he's so easy to kill right now. Terry comes back with a knife to cut him down, and she discovers that Scott is dead. That was a fantastic transition. I genuinely enjoyed that. I think that this movie is definitely an improvement on the first movie, especially in like style as well as direction. I think I've been enjoying this one a lot more than the first one so far.
Just give me a few minutes to get some things, okay?
Sure.
I'll be right back.
Don't you know the rules, Vicky? Come on, man.
And number 3, never, ever, ever, under any circumstances say, "I'll be right back," because you won't be back.
She's getting all spruced up, and then she realizes that she forgot something in her car, and she starts rummaging around to get it. Cinema. She pulls out what I initially thought was a hot dog, but in fact, it is not a Glizzy Defender 3000, and it is a hairbrush. Mark is waiting for her back at the cabin, and I'm gonna let this scene play out for you. How did you not see the attacker if they hit you from the front? Why did they do our boy Mark like that? This movie, man. After Sandra and Jeff get finished with their sinning, we do get the iconic sound cue that lets us know it's about to go down. Oh, Novi, not Bon Jovi. Okay, I hate that. Ew. That was such a bad joke, I'm sorry. When Vicky comes back to the cabin, she discovers what she thinks is Sandra and Jeff in the bed, but we actually get our first look at our killer.
Sandra?
Miranda?
It's kind of wild that like the depth perception, like the killer hasn't been messing up the kills because they only have one eye visible, but A+. Listen, I know that these spots happen on a nail when there's like trauma to it or it gets like bonked with a hammer or something, but my lizard brain just tells me it's poop on their nail. They have fungus poopy nail. It's gross, it's gonna get you. And I can't look at it. It really grosses me out. One thing I will say that might kind of be contrary to a lot of people's opinions, but I will not criticize when a character doesn't run away from the killer in a movie, because I've come to find out that When I have been really scared, I don't have the normal response of either fight or flight. It's a secret third thing called standing motionless like a statue. Yeah, I can't criticize anymore because I just shut down and my body is frozen. Paul and Ginny, come back to the cabin. Paul and Ginny decide to leave the bars early while Ted and I think some other counselors stay out. And when they get back to the cabins, they discover a lack of counselors and a very bloody bed. As they walk through the cabin, Ginny realizes that somebody is in the cabin with them, and we get a hefty Paul count while he wrestles the antagonist.
Paul.
This is kind of a weird scene because I don't know, it looks like Paul is dead or something because he's not responding, and so the killer turns his attention to Ginny. We do get a cute little final girl circuit as Ginny is running through the camp and she discovers all of these bodies, and she ends up getting into her car, but this scene, I can't take it seriously with the way the hand comes through. There is a lot of running and the killer stumbling in this chase scene, and I feel like they could have pared it down just a little bit. Ginny ends up running into a cabin and hides under the bed, and as the killer is walking around inside the cabin, Ginny sees a rat, and she really just lets loose on that bladder. Thinking about like the physics of it, if she's laying down, wouldn't it just kind of like absorb into her pants or like her clothing? It wouldn't pool like that, right? I never thought I'd be talking about a pee puddle on this channel, but here we are. 500 subscribers, baby! She thinks the coast is clear, but little lady. The dude is still there, and the image of him like jumping off of that chair to like strike the pitchfork down, it reminds me so much of when I was a little kid and my dad, after we would be like playing, he would kind of fall asleep on the floor, and that was my signal that it was time for me to try out all of my WWE moves and just like absolutely like slam on him. She does actually get a good hit in, and she knocks out the killer, and so Ginny starts running towards the closest building, which is the killer's love shack. Or should I say, a love shrine, because we find out what was hidden in that room is actually a shrine with Pamela Voorhees' decapitated head on it. So if you haven't gleaned it yet, the killer in this movie is Jason Voorhees, the son of Mrs. Voorhees from the first movie. Ginny sees this and immediately gets to scheming. She puts on the iconic Mrs. Voorhees sweater and fixes up her hair to kind of look a little bit like Betsy Palmer's. Jason comes in through the door and she decides to kind of play some psychological games and pretend to be Mrs. Voorhees.
Jason, Mother is talking to you!
Jason, Mother is talking to you.
She's picking up the machete, and right at the second that she was about to hit, it gets blocked. And then Paul comes in last minute, and how is he alive? I'm honestly surprised that they didn't try to go for an angle where Jason actually has like an accomplice. That would be really interesting. But no, Paul's a good guy, and he just somehow survived. Anyway, as you may remember from the first movie, as soon as you start getting into that slow, awful-looking frame rate, it's killer killing time, and Ginny ends up hitting the killer with the machete. Paul carries her to the cabin, but we get this suspenseful moment where she hears something outside. The scream, like I genuinely screamed out loud with joy when I saw that sweet little angel baby is alive.
Give your mom.
Oh, well, now I don't like it. Stop it. Oh boy, that makeup is something else. And we get like a long shot, a good look at it. Also, that's the end of the movie. Like, she basically just gets taken in an ambulance and the movie is over. It's just so abrupt. I definitely think that this movie was an improvement on the first one. I think that, like, the interest of Mrs. Voorhees being the killer in the first movie was very interesting, but I felt a lot more engaged in this one instead. Aside from that weird recap in the beginning, I do think that the movie had good pacing where we kind of kept it chugging along. It is still very similar in formula to the first one. I mean, it's pretty much beat for beat, aside from like the ending being a little bit more psychological based, but I still found it very fun. I also, like, we don't actually get a solid answer on whether or not the counselors that were at the bar survived. Because, like, if the ambulance was there, I don't know. I feel like there must have been survivors in this movie, so that's kind of interesting. So what did you think of the movie? Let me know in the comments below. Did you like this one more than the first, or did you still like the first one better? I'd love to hear your opinions. While you're there, feel free to give this video a thumbs up so I know what kind of content you'd like to see. I basically base it around what I see a lot of people engaging with, and I want to make content that you all enjoy. Also, if you haven't subscribed yet, please consider doing so. I have finally hit 500 subscribers, and I look forward to creating a larger audience and creating more videos that people really want to see. So I hope you stick around. And with that, I will see you all in the next video. Don't forget to stay soft and spooky. Bye.